Hi everybody, welcome to another video. So today we're having a little bit of a play. This is quite an old video, but we're having a play with some candy colours I was playing with a few years ago. I looked back at the data on the original recording and it was actually May 2020. So it was a long time ago, about 3.5 years ago. And one of the things I noticed on this is how much my style has changed. Someone said to me once, you know, I don't know how you get the results you do using the style you do. And I at the time I thought, you know, I don't know what you're on about. But looking back at this, it's actually quite painful for me. I'll go into that in a second, but I wanted to cover what I'm doing here with the fine line tape. So the temperature is about 10 degrees. It was May, but it wasn't particularly warm that early in May. But you'll notice that I'm using a heat lamp, and I did a video on using fine line tape, so I'll put a link in the description if that's how you got here to watch this video. But the heat in the fine line tape does a number of things. Because it's the actual tape is like a vinyl, it becomes much more manipulative, much more manipulatable. That's better, I think. When it's warm, it also sticks better as well, and I find that it adheres to any contours better. Now, the tank's pretty flat in most of the cases, but you'll see the bit here where you're doing the two edges where the actual tank creases are, where they put the two bits of tank together. You'll find that it needs a bit of heat to actually get right into those grooves. So that's why I do it with a bit of heat, because it wasn't particularly cold. 10 degrees isn't cold, but that heat just makes that makes that tape a little bit more tacky, and it just makes it easier to get a good seal. Because bear in mind, you're going to paint over the top of this, and you don't want any bleeding. Because the idea with this paint job was that we'd have candy on one side, a green candy on one side, over obviously the gold base, and on the other side we would have an orange, predominantly orange, over the gold. With the actual coach line would be the original gold colour underneath, which if I'm really boring you, which I appreciate, I may well be, skip to the end and you'll see the end results, because I think it actually comes out pretty well. But there was a few things I was going to say. One of them is going back to my style. It doesn't matter how you do these things, whatever works for you really. Now, looking at this for me is actually quite painful, because it's not at all how I would do it now. The system of the masking and the tape, etc., that hasn't changed at all. But because back then I was used to using mini guns more than full-size guns. These days I've got a load of full-size guns, and I'm much more used to using full-size guns. So I would actually do this in much more sweeping movements, covering a big area, simply because the output of the gun is greater. I mean, I do use a full-size gun for the clear coat. I actually missed one lot of clear coat on this, but you know, this is a 1.0, it's a W300, really superb gun, fine atomization. So it doesn't have a really big fan. And as I say, I section off the tank into various sections. These days I wouldn't do that at all, but it really doesn't have any outcome on the finish. The finish looks just as good now, just as good then as it would now. Me doing it a different way. So I can't honestly say that there's any benefit to doing it a different way. And if doing it this way, so you're sectioning the tank off into little sections, works for you, don't worry about it. Don't worry about what other people say. Get on and do it. As long as your end results are what you want, or what the person you're doing it for wants, it really doesn't matter how you get there. It's the destination that counts, not the journey. Okay, so whatever you want to do it. As long as it is working for you and it's the final finish is what you want, don't worry about it. So if people do criticise things you do, or you're not doing things the same as other people are doing, but it's working, don't worry about it. Just do it your way. We all have our own little quirks. It's just that looking at this is, as I said, it's quite painful for me, because it's not how I would do it at all now, but there's no question that the end result is actually really, really good. Anyway, another thing I was going to say, as well as when I was saying about using heat in the with the fine line tape, if you're watching this and you're new to candy paint work, and I know quite a lot of people that watch this channel are, obviously I'm just doing a straight line across the tank here. I'm doing it off center, but you can actually do what you want. You can, make flame lines or whatever you want to do. All you're doing is using a fine line tape to give you an edge that the paint doesn't enter, doesn't come under. Now, if you're unsure about doing it for the first time, I've put the tape directly onto the base coat here, because I'm pretty confident of the tape I use. I use a J tape. I do buy it. I'm not sponsored by anybody or anything. I use J tape. It's actually made in the UK. I think it's pretty good. They do different colours. I think they've actually got a new one out now, a purple one. I'm not sure what the benefit or differences is to that. I normally use orange, or in this case green, because it's more supple, more manoeuvrable, and they do it in different widths as well. They actually do, which I've also got, they do like pinstripe ones, so it's a you can get them. I think my one's about 20 millimeters wide, so 3/4 of an inch wide. And the actual tape is about that wide, but it's cut into about 9 or 10 different stripes, so you can put it all on there and then pull off the different bits that you want to give you pinstriping, more than obviously one pinstripe. So there's lots of things you can do, but if you're worried about bleed, which is what I was trying to get to, if you're worried about it bleeding through, and there's a couple of things you can do, which I don't always like to do. The first thing I don't mind, which is put a 2K clear coat over the top. So you've done your gold base, put a 2K clear coat over the top, leave it for a day, and then sand it down with say 600 grit, something like that, and then leave it for a couple of days. Put your tape on, and you can start putting your candy on. And if you get a problem, if you get a bleed through, you'll be able to remove the excess that's bled through the tape. So that's a bit of insurance, really, but it makes it a longer winded process. Because if you're going to do this properly, what you'll do when you see this tank at the end, all I've done is I put 2 coats of clear on it, but I actually missed the second coat. But there's been 2 coats of clear on it. And then I would sand it again and just put 1 coat of clear to make it look super smooth and glossy. And it also takes away the difference where you've got the 2 lots of candy paint and your pinstriping is the original depth. It just gives you a slight ridge on the clear coat that you can feel. Whereas if you put a couple of coats of clear, sand it so that everything's flat, just like if you're doing decals. If you're using vinyl decals but you don't want it to feel, you don't want to be able to feel the decal once you've clear coated it, then you'll just give it a sand so that it's all nice and smooth, and just put, normally some people put 2, you can put just 1 coat of clear over it, because that will give you the flattest finish normally. Just 1 coat of clear over a sanded clear coat will give you a really nice flat finish. But I didn't use that here. It's all off the gun. It's how, if you're new to the channel, it's how we do things. I let you see things exactly as they come out. I don't polish anything. I don't touch anything in any way. It's pointless me doing that, because it's not, you'd just be looking at the finished article, and I could make a real bodge up of it. and show you something that's polished, and you wouldn't know, you know, what had gone wrong, if anything, basically. So I always show you stuff off the gun. But the other way of giving yourself a bit of insurance when you're doing candy with any kind of pinstriping or you know, whatever you want to do, is to use some clear base coat. So you would do your in this case gold base coat. You would then put your fine line tape over in whatever configuration you wanted to, you know, whatever pattern you were doing, and you then just put a coat of a base coat or clear base coat. So base coat binder, intercoat clear, I think they call it as well, but it's just a clear base coat. And what that does is it gives you a little skin over the top. Now I don't like doing that, and the reason I don't like doing that is because you're already, when you're putting the candy coats, you're already putting quite a few coats of paint on there, and what it does is it makes the, when you take the tape off, because you've got the clear coat effectively over the tape as well, because you want to cover those edges so that it doesn't bleed. When you actually pull the tape off, you tend to get a rougher line. Now you can sometimes just you put a gloved finger over it to remove those little edges that can pull up when you pull the tape up, but I prefer not to do that. I prefer to do it this way. As long as you've got faith in the way your tape work's done, then this is the best way to do it, I think, because it doesn't give you so many layers, and it doesn't give you it gives you a nice crisp line. You'll see at the end the actual line is very, very crisp, so it gives you a nice crisp line, which is what most people are actually after. You'll notice here when I'm actually taking the tape off, you'll see that I've got heat on it again, and that's for exactly the same reason. The other thing you don't want to do, you want to put some heat on it, but you don't want to leave this too long at all. I'm doing this as soon as it's remotely dry. So once the base coat is dry to the touch, obviously you don't touch it with your finger, you touch it with a clean gloved hand or an area near there which has got the same amount of paint on it, so that you know the paint has gone off. But what you need to do is get some heat on it and slowly peel it up as much as 180 degrees away from the work, if that makes sense. So you're not pulling it up, you're pulling it what's the best to explain it? Well, you could see the way I did it. You actually pull it like at right angles away from the work, and that gives you the best chance of not pulling any of your candy colour up, and it should give you a really nice crisp line. Now we're going over it now with just some base coat. As I say, I apologise, I did 2 coats, but I actually missed the second coat. It's one of those things, you've got a camera on your head sometimes. This is the older camera, so the picture quality isn't as good, but it's not too bad. The stuff outside and at the end is done with a mobile phone, so it actually looks better. But it's one of those things, you put the camera on the head, and because you can feel the camera on your head, you've often forgotten that you've turned it off. So you think you're, you know, working away filming, and with all this stuff you only get one chance to get it. So apologies for that, but there was 2 coats, although you've only actually seen one. And here's the final job. I mean, I prefer, it depends what top colour goes on, but I really like a light gold under the candy coats, because I think it gives you some gorgeous colours. I like the warmer colours. So the orange looks nice, and even the green looks nice over a gold base, because when you get out in the sun, and we've got some coming up in a minute, it's not actually in the sunshine, but it's quite bright. The first one is quite dull, and then we got this one here, and then we got some in some bright light, and the gold comes through the green, but obviously it also comes through the orange as well. And you can see the original gold line it's a really nice crisp line. I think it's a really nice crisp line. And as I say, it doesn't have to be a line, but I just thought, you know, a straight line across the side of the tank would actually look quite good. A couple of things, the Iwata cups, you'll see me using Kiwami4 on this, and the W300WB. Both of those take the same cup, and they do a nice 200 milliliter cup for it with a black little breather hole. Make sure that breather hole is actually turned away from the work, because it has a real habit of fluid, if the cup's quite high, of fluid or paint coming out of there, and if it drops on your paintwork, it's an absolute pain. So make sure you turn that towards the painter, and then when you're bending the gun over, it doesn't try and drip out. So just keep a look on that. But anyway, I think you'll agree, guys, it's actually come out really, really nice. If you enjoy my rambling, I've got a bit of a sore throat, so I sound a little bit, you know, more husky, I suppose. But if you enjoy my rambling about my various paintwork stuff, then think about giving us a subscription. YouTube tend to, you know, more subscribers people have got, the more they push the content. Anyway, guys, much appreciated. Thanks for watching as always. Cheers. Bye bye.